dad was short and sweet, and I timed this yesterday, and mine's going to be a little bit longer. Is this thing on? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
It'll work.
How about now? Is that a little better? How about now? All right. I got some stuff to say, so I kind of want to know you guys to hear me. It's a little bit like detective work when you're trying to find, out about somebody that's passed on because they don't have anything to tell you, you know? So, my voice is going to break a little bit, my eyes might leak a little bit, but I'm going to get through this. So are we all. So I found some things when I was searching through things trying to find his will. And by the way, if you haven't got a will, write one, please. It'll make it much easier for those that are remaining to carry out your wishes. I just received this yesterday, and this is actually a letter from a good friend of our family that is now also passed on. And this is when Terry was going back to school at Penn State. He asked our friend Joe for a recommendation letter. I'm not going to read the whole thing in the interest of time, but I'll read a lot of it. So, dear sir, madam, I'd like to tell you about the Terry I know. The Terry who is a second-generation Irish-American, the third of 6 children, and the oldest boy in his family. I've known the McMenamin family for over 20 years, having first met Terry when he and his family lived in Limerick, Maine. Terry lived on a working farm where doing your chores wasn't asked but required of you in order for the farm to survive and prosper. Terry did what needed to be done, not complaining and always looking out for his sisters and younger brother. He has chosen this role throughout his life, as a boy, as a teenager, and today as a man. After moving to Springfield, Virginia, he was exposed to a different culture and way of life. Terry never lost his sense of duty and responsibility to family. At 17 years of age, he joined the Army National Guard, his overriding reason being to obtain a scholarship money for college. Terry believed that he would lessen the financial burden for his mother, a registered nurse, and his father, a high school history teacher. Upon fulfilling his military requirements, Terry worked full-time and attended college as his finances would allow. He worked as a bank teller, waiter, and cook. Terry worked in a variety of interesting and strange places. I can attest. Terry worked as a kitchen manager, trainer, and opener of new Outback steakhouses. He progressed quickly, and after a year, Terry was next in line for the position of regional food tech manager. Looking at where he was going and what he wanted out of his life, Terry resigned from his job in order to return to what he wanted, which was to finish his education. He returned to his parents' home in Pennsylvania to work and establish residency in order to attend Penn State. During this time, Terry never lost his sense of giving, both to family and friends, always taking the time to ask, what can I do to help? In choosing how to respond to life, Terry has developed a character rich in patience, integrity, and maturity. He is sensitive to those around him, doing the small things like walking the overweight boy home from school so the bullies won't pick on him, and hiring the disadvantaged and the slow learners, thereby giving everyone a chance. He believes in doing for others quietly, without fanfare, in doing and not in sitting on the sidelines. It's been a privilege to be a part of Terry's life for these past 20 years. Respectfully, Francis J. Martin, manager, Bell Atlantic. Let's see. Doing for others quietly without fanfare. While I was going through some documents, I found his taxes for 2014, And it's still 2014, so I was like, what kind of tax forms is he going to have for 2014, you know? But it was a bunch of stuff in there, and this is actually going to obviously be both he and Masha, because they were back together for the majority of 2014, if not the entirety of it. Those two decided to give extensively to charities. And as my brother is very well organized, he documented all of it. So here's just a list of what he had given in 2014. The Cape St. Clair Volunteer Fire Department. He gave to the Persecution International Christian Concern 5 times, almost $2,000. He gave to Goodwill twice. He gave to the American Ireland Fund 3 times. The Little Sisters of the Poor, Catholic Relief Services, American University, the Salvation Army, the Relay for Life when his brother was walking in it, and I'm sure the check that was hardest to write for him was the last one, and that would be to Penn State. So, here's another little thing that I found. Masha and Terry had a little bit of a, you know, they had a little difficulties, and I wasn't terribly sure how everything was going because I wasn't in the best contact with him all the time. You know, I kept wanting to, you know, hang out more, but being busy, going to school and all that. But this tells me exactly how their relationship was going. This one's gonna hurt. This is a Valentine's Day card written from her to him. On the outside of the card it says, "Will you be my Valentine forever?" To my one and only Valentine, Terry. Dear Terry, I love you, exclamation point. God made a change in my heart to accept and appreciate you for who you are. I thank the Lord for you in my life. I've admired you for your thoughtfulness and for your willingness to look silly and make me feel comfortable in silly situations. These small details about you that are what made me attracted to you. Your strong and daring personality is something that I admire and cherish a lot. I think in my ambition and competition with you, I realized how much I was tearing both of us down. I want to follow you and to support you. I want to be a blessing in your life. Thank you for showing a lot of effort in rebuilding our marriage and for being willing and open to do what it takes for us to get together. I think God is using our differences to show us that only in Him we can become one, with Him putting us together and making these differences count to refine us and mature with each day. Love you, Masha. So, now it's my turn. So that's evidence that I found of what was going on in my brother's life, you know. I knew my brother intimately when I was younger, and so I'll share with you a couple of stories about him and a little bit about Masha as well. When we were younger, we went to church in Portland, Maine, but lived in Limerick, Maine, which was about 30 or 40 miles away. So they were doing some kind of religious training thing on a Saturday. So we were driven into Maine, or into Portland, And so we were dropped off at the church, and I went and did my training thing, and then I went back and hung out with my brother because they didn't want me at that age to be hanging out in the rough section of Portland, Maine by myself. I knew I could handle it, but just to make them feel better, I hung out with Terry. So we were at McDonald's and we got some food, and there was like a group of guys that were sitting over at another table, kind of thuggish looking guys, and one of them was like, looking at me and, saying hello and being friendly, I thought, whatever. So Terry didn't like that at all. So he picked a fight with like 4 guys, and he took a beating for his younger brother. I don't think that he, picked that fight thinking that he was going to win it. I think it was just more about standing his ground, and that says, that says volumes about my brother. He always wanted to be real involved. He was always paying a lot of attention to me when I was younger. I used to do this like little newspaper contest thing. You do like fill out a little puzzle, and then send the puzzle completed in, and then they would send you some kind of prize, so like a little Rubik's Cube or keychain or something. And I was opening up the box for my new prize that I got, just like, so I was opening it up, and I saw what was in there, and it was like, I was really happy about what was in there, and I jumped up, because like I was full of energy back then. I really like some of that energy now, but, so I jumped up in the air, and like my brother was over top of me, so I like slammed into his jaw, and it was quite a thing. So even to his detriment, those stories will tell you that my brother was very much involved with me when I was younger, for sure. Another time, we were at school, and we were playing kickball, just kicking the ball back and forth, waiting for school to start, right? And it was raining, or I'm going to say it was raining, because I lost my footing, and I ended up falling to the ground and landing on my chin. And my tongue was in between my teeth, so it bit holes in my tongue, and so my brother took me to the nuns, who were like losing it. I'd never seen these nuns lose it. It was pretty amazing to see some nuns losing it. They gave us money, they put us in a cab, and they sent us to the hospital. And we got to the hospital, and the hospital people were like, we don't know what to do with you, And so I think we got back in the cab and went to where my mom was working, and she was doing some kind of training, or I don't remember. I was pretty young. She was a registered nurse doing some training, and like at the hospital, they couldn't do anything because it's the tongue. Like they can't. They gave me some gauze, maybe, I don't know. But they're like, it's the tongue. We can't do anything, So I was like, great, thank you. So we went to my mom, and then, and my brother was with me through this. He was navigating, a city that I don't know that we knew how to navigate, and got me to all of the places that I needed to go in order to, whatever, make it back to normal. I don't know. All right, so later on in my life, I drifted apart from my entire family. Like nobody could get in contact with me. I didn't have a phone, I wasn't calling anybody, no fixed address, none of that stuff, But my brother made several attempts to reach out to me. He had a softball team at work, and so he recruited me for the softball team because I played baseball a lot when I was younger, and I managed to show up for a couple of games, but showing up for stuff on time wasn't my specialty back then, so I only made it a couple of times and then drifted back into obscurity. Another time he did something similar, which was he invited me to join his pool league and be on his team. And I was like, okay, nobody asked me to be on anything at that point, it was, I was pretty rough shape. I was like, yeah, I'll be on your pool league, I'll do you a favor, And so he would pick me up from downtown DC, and I would ride with him, and then we'd go play pool, and then, we'd go back to his house afterwards, and he'd let me stay there, and then he'd bring me back to the city, and off I'd go, And I managed to show up for that for a couple of weeks too. I mean, it was, I I wasn't able to manage the whole season or take direction or anything like that, you know. And one of the more touching ones was I went to my home bar. Like, that was a place I usually could be found, was at the bar that I always used to go to. Like, that place I checked into on a regular basis, you know. And so I pulled up to the bar and I sat down, and the bartender poured me a Guinness, and I was like, I didn't order this. And she's like, well, your brother came in looking for you and he didn't find you, so he bought you a beer, you know. And so he managed to say hello to me without actually seeing me, which was pretty cool, I think. I only knew Masha a little bit, but there were a couple of interactions that we had. When I moved back up from Alabama to Maryland, within 12 hours I had a job offer and a place to stay because I knew people up here, and my brother was like, as soon as he heard that I was offered a job, he was like, okay, you're staying with us, you know, period. And I was like, okay, fair enough. I didn't want to argue with him when he started talking like that, you know what I mean? And so when I was just starting to get settled, after I had moved up here from Maryland, I was planning on going to the community college and starting to seek my education again. And so I was kind of, you know, I'm a procrastinator. It's like I haven't been to school in a long time. I don't know how to start, blah, blah, blah. So Masha, she actually was like, so I hear you want to go to school. I'm like, yes, I want to go to school. She's like, okay, so let's go over to the computer right here and fill you out an application right now. I'm like, why don't we do that later? She's like, let's do that right now. I was like, okay. So I filled out this form kind of like half-heartedly, you know, on the computer. I intentionally left information out, you know, and I was expecting them to send me a letter in the mail saying like, send us more information, you know, but instead they sent me a letter saying, come register for classes. And I was like, okay. So Masha had her way. That's about all I have for you. I'd like to, in closing, I'd like to thank some of Terry's co-workers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics who gave a very generous donation for us for these funeral services to go off. I would like to thank Dory Allard, Steve Hagen, who was Terry's direct supervisor, Mike Horrigan, Fran Horvath, Sandy Mason, and Tom Nardine. I can't tell you the weight that it lifted off of our shoulders to receive such a generous contribution and not have to worry about that while we were worrying about everything else. Thank you.